welcome to Marauders Weekly. We've got plenty to talk about in just 15 minutes today, like the start of spring sports. Joined with me for the first half of tonight's show is track and field coach Mike Thorson. Thanks for coming in today.
Thank you, Kaleigh.
Now, to start things off, Davina Carr and Alexis Zeiss were recently named All-Americans this year for indoors. Can you tell me a little bit about those women?
Well, I would correct you a little bit there because they weren't really named. They earned that, Kaleigh, at the National Indoor Championships down in Pittsburgh, Kansas. Davina, third place, so that's a first-team All-American. And Lexi was ninth place, just missed by hundredths of a second in the 3Ks. You run that far and it's separated by just a millimeter of a second. But she got ninth. That's second team. 9 through 12 is considered second-team All-American.
Okay, now is this the first time that both of those women have earned that spot then?
No, certainly not. Davina's second time. Lexi's got a number of All-Americans. You know, she's a national champion in cross country, so she's had a history of success. So this was nothing new, really, to either one of the athletes.
Now, speaking a little bit about success, can you tell me a little bit about the success with both the men and the women in the indoors season?
Well, we were fairly pleased with our men. You know, we were 11th a year ago, so they moved up to 7th. We had some nice performances from a number of different athletes. You know, Chris Jessup, a senior from Corvallis, Montana, ended up doing very well in the 3K, the 5K. Will Kegler in the triple jump. Cord Burner in the 200. You know, I could go on and on. We had some nice finishes, and again, not that we're content with a 7th place finish for our men, but at least it was a step in the right direction for an extremely young and a team that doesn't have a lot of depth. On the women's side, obviously, we were very, very disappointed. You know, for our women's program, we have the resources, funding, scholarships to be a conference champion every year. Anytime we're not, we consider that a failure. And that, I don't mean that as a criticism towards our young ladies, because the people that we brought did a very nice job. The problem was I haven't done a very good job recruiting, so we didn't have the firepower to be in a position to contend for a championship, and coupled with a couple injuries, plus again a rebuilding season, young team. You know, yeah, but very, very disappointed with our women.
Now, what do you think, speaking of recruiting, that you might do a little bit differently then?
Well, we've branched out. We're worldwide, Kaleigh. We just need to do a better job, or I need to do a better job, I should say, and seeking out better people and getting them to see the positives that we have at the University of Emery in our program.
Now, with the indoor season complete, you know, we've moved into outdoors. What are the expectations like for this season? Well,
certainly we're going to try to hope that we can use that indoor season as a motivator, especially for the women, to come back. And typically we've been able to do that despite the weather. That's always a concern when you're up here in the upper Midwest, the climate. You know, when you look at, you know, we're competing against people from the West Coast and down south. Definitely it's a setback for us. But no, we're looking to be bigger and better and stronger outdoors, both our men and women.
Okay, so now, has there been any athletes, you know, indoors or outdoors, that have really stood out to you this season?
Well, like I said, you know, Davina and Lexi had great indoors. Tony Ann Padawi was also at the national meet for us, just missed qualifying for the 60-meter hurdles. You know, we got a lot of great athletes. A lot of them are young. It's going to take some time, but hopefully we can develop. And again, some of that is going to depend on the weather. That's always, like I said, that's always a problem for us here. But yeah, I think we can make some progress. We have to. We got to develop our athletes if we're going to get better, if we're going to have a better outdoor. And we got a coaching staff, and we got a young group of ladies and men that can get the job done.
Now, what do you think the best way in coping with the weather really is?
A lot of it's mental, and we should be used to it, because you know, the problem with this spring is it's really been nice. We had a great fall, we had a great winter, and we've kind of been spoiled. Now we're getting a little taste of what it should be normally, but 2 weeks ago it was 70 above. So sometimes that's kind of it's certainly not a blessing to get nice, and then you got to go back to what we call the real weather that we get in the spring, because then it's kind of a setback mentally. So a lot of it's mental toughness and just getting out there and saying, I'm going to get this done despite the weather.
Now, you know, the weather has been pretty nice, so it has been looking pretty good so far. What is the practicing like, you know, going into the outdoors, transition-wise, from indoors to outdoors?
A lot of the events are different, so obviously we're doing some different training. We've been on our outdoor a lot more this year than typically we've had, in the past. A lot of times we went to our first outdoor meet and hadn't even been outdoors yet. That's certainly not the case this year. So it's been a good spring, and we really can't complain about the weather, and that's just an excuse, because everybody's got to compete in it around here, and we're going to do it as well.
All right, Coach. Well, I think we're definitely looking forward to the outdoor season with the nice warm weather, moving out from indoors and everything like that. Is there anything else really looking forward to this season?
Well, we're really excited. We start at Black Hills on Thursday, weather permitting, down to Spearfish. Then we come back, we go to Sioux Falls April 1st and 2nd. And then we're really excited. We're going to host our home meet on April 9th, Saturday, April 9th. We've renamed the Marauder Open the Albortki Open in honor of our longtime athletic director who passed away last fall. And that's going to be a reunion of sorts. We got a lot of athletes coming back. So we're really, really excited about our home meet, the Albortki Open.
Yeah, should be a good one. Good luck to the team. And don't go anywhere. We're talking Marauders baseball when we return. All right, welcome back. With spring sports season in full swing, that means that the Emery baseball team has already begun their season. They had their exhibition game against Bismarck State College last week. And taking a look at some of the highlights from the game, bottom first, Tom Imholt with the Marauders hits this to left. BSC can't get there in time as Will Petner runs on into home, as you can see here. And then next up, it's Jordan Sweep. He hits this to second, and he sends home a Marauder. And then it's Sean Heenan who hits this outright, but he ends up standing on first. Bottom second with the pitch, Trenton Hovey hits this to far right field and makes it to second with Heenan on third. Now the Mystics would end up coming back for the 5-4 victory. And joined with me now is head coach Joel Barta. Thanks for joining me, Coach.
Happy to be here.
Great. Now to start things off, before the game against BSC, the guys were in Florida. How does playing in Florida for those 18 games really help the team?
Probably the biggest thing is confidence of situation. I mean, the more times that you're in counts, you're on the mound, those are the biggest things that it helps for. Just repeating what you do daily, whether it's in a bullpen or in a cage, when you put it into a live setting, it becomes real. And so that's the biggest thing. You start to trust some situational stuff. You start to trust basically some tendencies that you have.
Now, last year the team had some struggles. What do you think is being done differently about this season?
Well, number one, the maturity. We had a lot of young kids in the lineup this year, and a lot of those same kids will be kids that see action this year. The biggest difference is that how do you overcome a lot of one-run situations? Either we have to get a stop on the mound, or sometimes you just got to make a play. A lot of times that was the biggest difference between some of our games last year, is we just didn't know how to finish. And with some maturity and some trust and definitely some additions, hopefully some of those things start to change a pattern.
Now, the other day when we spoke a little bit, you mentioned a lot of depth when it came to pitching and in the bullpen. Can you explain a little bit about that?
Well, it doesn't matter at any level of baseball. It's dictated by your success on the mound. And for us, we've been able to take and add a lot of younger guys. We've had a couple of veterans come in. One that came in a semester. And health-wise, we've been able to stay healthy throughout the course of the year and not really get dinged up. So it's created a lot of depth in our rotation guys. And the way our conference is set up, we play doubleheaders Saturday, Sunday, and then we have a midweek. So you have to be able to be 6 deep with starters and be able to have a rotation that can handle that, along with being able to have some guys that either can throw matchup situations or come out and get 3 outs at the end of a game.
Okay, now talking about pitchers, Jake Johnson, he won the NSIC Pitcher of the Week. Now, the last time that Emery won that was back in 2013. Can you tell me a little bit about what kind of player he is?
Number one, Jake's loyal. He works hard, he's competitive. He's a guy that's bought in ever since we recruited him. And when you have people like that, they give you a committed work ethic. It's contagious. You see other pitchers either start to emulate what Jake does or work harder. And and he's as humble of a player as we have. So all the success that he's had has came through work that he's put in. But he's not afraid of an opponent, and he's going to attack the strike zone. And this year, the biggest thing is his strikeout to walk ratio has really changed. That's probably the biggest difference.
Now, would you say there are any other pitchers or other players in general that are really standing out to the team?
You know, that can go from week to week, but on a daily basis, naturally you have players that your team gravitates to, that they either want those guys in situations either at the plate or on the mound. And, you know, McKeon Mayoff's the senior for us. McKeon's been around since the beginning, and he just keeps getting stronger and trusting his stuff more and more. And, you know, so when we roll out on a weekend, Jake and McKeon will be 1 and 2, and anytime you're at the front of the rotation, your team feels good about that, which allows Brad and Zach and Nick Stobie, Brad Meyer, and Zach Steckler, those guys will be able to fill those slots 3 through 5. And it gives a lot of guys confidence defensively and naturally at the plate. Tom Imholt's been off to a great start for us, as well as Brad Meyer and of course Jason Shaw, who's going to hit in his sleep. So anytime you have some of those guys, it's always nice.
All right, thanks so much, Coach. Now, let's take a look at the schedule for this week for Marauders baseball, softball, track and field. For baseball on Wednesday, the Marauders will host Dickinson State at 3 and 6 p.m. Then they'll be on the road on Friday and Saturday, where they'll take on the University of Sioux Falls at both noon and 2. For the softball team, the women will be up in Minot to take on the Beavers on Tuesday at 2 and 4. And then they'll host Wayne State on the 25th at 1 and 3. And then they'll host Augustana at noon and 2 on Saturday. And then the men's and women's track and field team will be in Spearfish, South Dakota for the Black Hills Invite on Thursday. So plenty of games to go check out. We'll be going busy here, so that'll do it for this week's episode of Marauders Weekly. I'll see you next week.
Thank you for watching Marauders Weekly. Join us next Sunday as we showcase more Marauders athletics from home and away in Marauders Weekly, exclusively on NBC North Dakota Sports.